That's the wrong question. Ask again. Well, hey there. Welcome back. As I've said a million times, and as the new music says so majestically, life is made of three things: time, energy, and resources. In a recent podcast, I discussed the fact that people have said to me, "Mark, how do you have time for that?" And I say, that's the wrong question. The actual question should be, how do you have the energy for that? You see, in my coaching, I have coached an individual that wanted to write a book, another one that wanted to play the piano. And in both cases, they had ample time to do those things. They didn't have the energy. It's a reoccurring theme when you want to put something into your life, something you're trying to accomplish. The first thing you look at is, well, I'll make time for it. But all the time in the world doesn't matter if you don't have the energy for it. Let's talk about your job. If you have a standard 9 to 5 or whatever to whatever, you're expected to produce a certain amount of work, a certain amount of results within a certain amount of time. Now you can say back to me, well, Mark, no, it doesn't work that way. There's longer term things happening, things, there's more nuance to that. And I say back to you, well, no, you're expected to produce a certain amount per a certain amount of measurable time. That's the way it works, because time is money. They pay you X amount of dollars per hour. And even if you're on salary, it still breaks down to X amount of dollars per hour, per day, per month, per year. They're paying you money. They're giving you resources, and they're basing it on time and what you produce. The problem with that formula is that it doesn't scale. And by that, I mean, well, let me give you this example. If you say, well, Mark, I can run X amount of distance in 5 minutes. Oh, okay. So you can run 10 times that amount in 10 times the amount of time, right? So if we make you run for an hour, it doesn't, no, and then I get tired. Wait, you get tired? Well, no, I need a certain amount of productivity out of you. Aha! Physical exertion doesn't scale that way. It scales a bit, and that's why people work out and they keep pushing themselves. And yes, you can make amazing progress in that. You go from barely being able to do one pull-up to 10 pull-ups or something like that, or push-ups, and riding your bike for a certain amount of distance, walking, jogging, lifting weights, bench pressing, all that stuff. You make tremendous progress. But it's not simply because you say, well, if I can do X over X amount of minutes, I'll just double the minutes and double the results. Doesn't work that way, right? Your job is trying to do the opposite. It's saying, I'll give you more resources if you can double the productivity in the same amount of time. And you know as well as I do that doesn't really work. It sort of works, it doesn't work, because there's so many nuances involved in that. Maybe you can cram in an hour's worth of work in a half hour because you put more energy and focus into it, maybe. But you're not going to be able to sustain that. You're not going to say, I'll just double and triple and quadruple the energy that I put into working. Because just like physical exertion, there is a point of exhaustion. You can only go so long on focusing until the focus starts to diminish, until the accuracy drops, and so forth. I bet if you look back, you'll find that your most productive times were the ones where, oh, you forgot to look at emails and nobody interrupted you, and yes, you got to focus, but it was for a fairly short amount of time, like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And then you got up, and then you had a break of some kind because you got a phone call, you took a breath, you looked at your screen, or you looked at whatever and went, wow, I made some great progress. And then you switched your gears to a sort of recharge session, and you let the energy come back, and then you continued. But probably that entire day, nothing compared to that first time that you said, I'm going for it. If you live by the calendar, you're going to die by the calendar. And so many people, so many businesses, so many managers and management departments, overseers, systems, they all base things on the calendar. This guy does this for us for X amount of hours, let's increase it. Now, even if you're into accounting, even if you do numbers and you think you're using pure logic, you're not, because there's still an emotional component to that, and emotion uses energy. If you're someone that does sales, you're running on a lot of emotion. And you can argue about this, but that's what you're using to do sales. You may say, well, no, it's just mental manipulation. It's just me, remembering things, being able to interact with people, but being able to read people, being able to interact, being able to ethically help them find a solution, or even unethically find them a solution because you're trying to manipulate them, is requiring a lot of emotional and intellectual energy, which can be very exhausting. So if you're management and you say, John Conveyor Belt Man works 4 hours on the conveyor belt, let's just make him work 8 hours and pay him twice as much because he's just, it's linear. That might work, but you're going to find he's making a lot more errors. If you tell John the salesman that he's selling for 3 hours, but now he's going to sell for 8 hours, that's not going to work, because he's going to get burnt out very quickly. And he may not burn out that day, but it's going to start to compact. It's going to start to build up. And you know that. There are aspects about your job, even if they don't include sales. And if you're self-employed, you're funny by saying there's no sales involved. All you're doing is selling if you're self-employed. Those aspects are going to add up. It's going to start to, it's like you'll eventually need an oil change, basically. So I want you to think about the energy involved in what it is you do for a living, your life, as always, which is the whole alchemy for life system. Think about life as time, energy, and resources. You're getting resources and you're giving your time and your energy. And then what's left when you get home? When you get home, is there just time left? Do you just go, ugh, and you cook, or you don't cook, or your wife or husband or significant other cooks, and you just kind of stare off into space and there's not a lot left of you? Well, then you kind of use up all of your energy at your job, don't you? Even if it's a job that you like, even if it's a joy, it can still drain quite a bit of energy from you, while conversely giving you a bit of energy. But consider the energy component in addition to the time component. And in fact, consider the energy component first. I'll give you a little secret. You're already doing that. If someone gives you a certain amount of time to do a certain thing, the first thing that your brain does is assesses the amount of energy it takes to do that. And that's how you assess whether you've been given enough time. If someone gives you an hour to do something that takes a half hour, you look at it and go, easy, piece of cake, I can do that for you. If the opposite's true, they give you a half hour to do an hour, you instantly get stressed because your body and your brain start to go, wait, how hard can I push myself with the energy to cram that? Oh my God, that's not enough time, dude. I can't, I need an hour. So much of corporate America has traditionally put 6 hours of work into 8 hours. And people know that. And then they feel comfortable doing a job. And then they find these filler things. Well, I'll just check my emails. Oh, I'll just do this, right? And so many of people who are out in the cold and self-employed and things, like myself, we do the opposite. We cram in as much stuff as we possibly can, and we're constantly monitoring the amount of energy it takes to do things. And it's disingenuous, and it's unfortunate that people who are in corporate America or in your standard job don't continually assess the amount of energy it takes to do things and the amount of energy the job is taking from them, because you are much bigger and more important than your employment. You have a certain amount of energy in your life, and you spend some of it at your job, but the rest of your life is just as deserving. In fact, I would suggest more deserving of your energy. Things like your hobbies, your family, your self-care, your self-love, upkeep of things, all that stuff. I understand that I was wonderfully preachy here, but it's because I care. Because I think you really need to look at your calendar and look at it as energy, not just time. It's not just 2 hours to do something. How much effort, how much energy is it going to take? So the next time that you have to schedule something, think of that, please. And think of that too for the fun that you're going to have. Think of that for the fun times in your life. How much energy is it going to give you back? Thanks again.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a like, share, or subscribe. Feel free to reach out, and better days.
Not okay, all I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.